Welcome to the Abundance Hack Show, where we are inspiring you to ditch the outdated beliefs, release the blocks, and fully embrace your sovereignty so you can confidently expand to allow more love, joy, and aligned success in your life. I am Niajae, your conscious accountability partner, reminding you that abundance is your birthright. Hey M&Ms, thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. What are you manifesting in your life today? Today's guest is Janina Schick, and we are going to be talking about overcoming anxiety and cultivating self-love, which you guys know I am a huge advocate for, just really establishing that self-love. And she has a really interesting story. So before we dive into what she does and who she is, Janina, I want to ask you, what does abundance mean to you?
For me, it means freedom, inner peace. It means I live in inner peace. I live true to myself. And because of that, I radiate this energy, this frequency, and this same frequency comes back to me.
I love that. I love that. So Janina is a holistic health therapist and a mindfulness coach. So tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get involved in this?
I love this question, and I always have to say there's two answers. The first answer is that my first career was a physiotherapist, and whilst I love working as a physiotherapist, I always felt that's not enough. Only working on the physical body, something is missing. So I wanted to help my clients more holistically. So I continued and studied several different therapies and also mindfulness. And the second reason is my own story, a story of self-doubt, anxiety, panic attacks, and I wanted to find answers.
Yeah. Can we dive a little deeper into that? So what were some of the self-doubt that you were having, and how did you overcome it yourself?
I would say self-doubts that basically covered all my life. Self-doubts about me. Can I do that? What am I even here for? Am I even here for a reason? What can I achieve in my life? And yeah, so if you have these essential self-doubts about who you are, I think it reflects on all areas in your life.
So true. So I know that you live in Costa Rica, but you have an accent. So where's your accent from?
Germany, Munich in Germany.
Cool. Very cool. And then how did you end up in Costa Rica?
2017, that was like my breaking point, so to speak, when things really changed for me. And I realized I need a break. I need a break from my job, from everything, to find out what it is that I really want. Mm-hmm. And I've always been interested in the Latin American culture, so I grabbed my backpack and came here for 3 months. Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua.
I love it. So Costa Rica is one of my favorite places to travel in the world. So the energy there is just so amazing. Like the people, I love when they say pura vida, pura vida. It feels so good. I love Costa Rica so much. So I don't want to get too much off topic. So let's dive into anxiety. I feel like anxiety is at an all-time high. Why do you think that is right now?
Well, right now we are confronted with many of our shadow parts, with many of our ingrained fear of uncertainty. And we're confronted with it because, uncertainty is the number one topic right now. No one's going to know what's going to be next week, next month, next year. In topics of career and money and relationships, can I see my family who lives on the other side of the planet? So there's a lot of uncertainty, and it's absolutely normal that we feel anxious right now. The question is this an anxiety, a fear triggered now through this pandemic, or was there already something else lying beyond, which now comes out? I think both cases are very common right now.
Yeah, I think even before the pandemic, there's a lot of anxiety going around. So if someone doesn't know that they have high anxiety, what are some ways that you can pinpoint that you are in an abnormal amount of anxiety?
So what I hear very often is problems to fall asleep, or waking up many times throughout the night and not being able to fall asleep again. That's very often the subconscious showing there is too much activity going on. Nervousness that is more than the usual. We all are nervous sometimes, but when it's so much that we really get stuck, that we freeze. And the inner critic, when the inner critic is very loud and this loop of thoughts, can I do this, but what if this happens and what if that happens, this for me are signs that there is an anxiety sleeping.
Yes. Yeah, those are all really great signs. So, if someone experiences one of these signs, what would you say is a way that they can battle or face or navigate through anxiety?
Definitely what you just said, facing it, not repressing it, not trying to find distractions and watching TV or reading a book, or that doesn't help. You cannot ignore anxiety. It's gonna appear one way or the other. And there's many ways, and there's not the one right way. But I think it's helpful to speak with someone who can help you identify where does it come from. Every anxiety has a message. So what is the message? Is the message, I'm not caring enough for myself. I don't have healthy boundaries. I let people run over me. I don't listen to my body well enough. I have wounds from the past that are not healed. So what is the message? And once this message is identified, you can work on that.
I love it. I love it. So, how would you say that anxiety and insecurities go hand in hand?
Um, well, I think security can be one first step of anxiety. If someone is very insecure and not really trusting in one's abilities, in one's strength to cope with things, if this continues like this for a while, it can result in anxiety.
Yeah. So,
Both,
oh, go ahead.
both insecurity and also anxiety have a component of lack of self-love, of self-confidence, because if I know my strength, my worth, I know that I'm strong enough to deal with whatever is going to happen.
Yes. Yes. Totally, totally agree with that. So before we dive into self-love, I do want to ask you about purpose. There was something that you said that made me think about purpose. So how do you feel about purpose? And if someone doesn't know their purpose, how does that feel to them?
Also can be one cause for anxiety, because it simply means you live a life that it's not yours. You have this mask, you try to get the approval from society, from other people, so you live a life, but it's not authentic, it's not who you are in your core, and one response to that can be anxiety. Absolutely.
Yeah. And how does, in your opinion, how does one find their purpose?
Looking inward, and so many people have this stage in their life where they feel, well, my life is good, but something is missing.
Mm-hmm.
And what I recommend there is just pause. Allow yourself to pause and to do whatever makes you feel alive, and really setting the intention to look inward and reflect back, when in your life have you been the happiest? What did you do? Which values were met? And all this can be indicators of, what your soul purpose is.
Yes, such a good tip. So let's talk about cultivating self love. So, how does one cultivate self love?
For me, but that is for everything, in my opinion, the first step is self-awareness. Know yourself. Know what is right for you. Know what your values are. Know what makes you you. Mindfulness is my means through which. And yes, knowing yourself, and then living true to that, to your values, to your strength. And when you know yourself, you can set boundaries. You cannot set healthy boundaries when you don't know what is right and what is wrong for you. So in order to set healthy boundaries, you need to know your values first. So for me, it's through self-awareness, and then honoring what is true for you, and also being honest to what is not true for you.
Yeah. So when you say setting healthy boundaries, one of the first things that I think about are people pleasers. And I think that a lot of people please to a fault where they're ignoring their own needs or they're ignoring their own boundaries. And so I think that some people think that being a people pleaser is a good thing, but I think sometimes it's a trauma response. So can you speak to that a little bit?
That brings me back to my to my story with insecurity, self-doubt, anxiety, and people pleasing. Like I was the master in it, because yes, it's like a bit of instant gratification. When you please someone, you immediately feel good about yourself. You immediately feel, okay, I'm a good person. I'm worthy because I made this person happy. But that's not the way. That's not the way. And I had it with a client yesterday who felt guilty because she said no to something.
Mm.
And we really have been working on that. I told her that's the first step. She has anxiety for 11 years now. And I told her that's the first step because you said no, because you were true to yourself. And yes, it feels uncomfortable in the beginning because you're not used to it. But that's one of the first steps to overcome anxiety.
I love it. So, values is something that I actually worked on recently, establishing my value system. So, I would base my values off of, like, my parents, for example, like, oh, my mom would do this. So, if I'm doing this or not doing this, then I'm doing good. And so, what I had to do was clear all of that out of my conscious and like all of the programming and say, okay, when I get rid of all of that, what are my values? It has nothing to do with what other people think or my parents think, and really just establishing that for myself. So that was my process. If someone doesn't know what their values are, how would you suggest them establish their value system?
Yes, there is one of my favorite techniques that I learned in my life coaching when I studied life coaching. It's called core values.
Mm.
And it's a set of questions. But before I explain that, knowing the core values is important, but there's one thing that's even more important, and that's knowing how you prioritize them. And the first one and the second one of every person's core values are the most important. We all, or most of us, have similar core values: freedom, trust, love, connection. And so they're very similar. Safety is very important, but how do you prioritize them? For someone else might be safety on number one, whilst for someone else freedom. So it's important to know the priority list. And in a coaching session, it's basically a set of questions, bringing the client back to the situation when they felt really happy, really fulfilled, and then finding out which of the values were met, and then asking, what would you prefer, safety or freedom, love or connection? It's difficult because you have to decide between two, but that's how you find out number one, number two, number three.
I love it. I love that you take people to a happy moment, because I think that there's a lot of coaches that tend to take people to a negative moment, or when did you feel, heartbroken, or when did you feel like they take them back to the trauma situation. And I like that you take them to a happy situation and build on that. And that's really beautiful.
If you were looking for a sign, here it is. This is your reminder to not settle, to know your worth, and to follow your bliss. This is a reminder to maintain alignment and show up in your fullest expression. Abundant and Aligned Society is an accountability program to remind you that you are a powerful being and you deserve to live the life you truly desire. Go to niajae.com/society to join in on the magic, because life is meant to be abundant.
I mean, that's a motivator, right? When we remember, oh yeah, I've been really happy 5 years ago when I did X, I want this again. So which values do I need to prioritize? So I always like to work with positive motivators.
Yeah, I love that. I really think that's actually amazing because I asked a question on a previous episode, are you living to survive or are you living to thrive? And so there's a lot of coaches that teach how to avoid trauma or avoid pain, but you are teaching how to cultivate happiness and joy and love.
Yes. Yeah.
I love it.
Mhm.
And so I believe you mentioned something live wounds. Is that correct? Okay,
Yes.
what is that?
So after I started coaching, I recognized a pattern and in my clients and the clients I attract. And it were clients who went through trauma in their past, and many of them childhood trauma. And one trauma sometimes can attract another trauma. So I realized, well, again, that's what I went through. So I realized this is what I want to work with, people who went through these traumas where, as you said, many people react with a survival response. However, I can go through this as long as I can survive, and very often that's anxiety, depression, because that's simply the response in order so that we can survive. And yes, I've been through that, and I find a lot of fulfillment helping other people do the same.
Mm, I love it. Yeah, I do believe coaches attract people who have gone through similar things as them. And so we're able to help guide through and like navigate through because we resonate. We resonate with the story. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your top 3 tips for living an abundant life?
The top 3. Again, know yourself, know what you need. Needing more important than wanting, because sometimes we want something, but it's not really what we need. What do you need on a core level? And
Mhm.
then live accordingly to that. And I think we all know law of attraction. So work with that, use it for your advantage. Work with affirmations and be the person that you want to become. Embody that already, and that's what you radiate, and that's what's going to come back to you. And most of all, don't believe all of your thoughts to be true, because it's the thoughts, the inner critic, telling us it's not possible. No, I don't deserve that. The others can live in abundance, but I can't. And it's not meant to be. No, these thoughts they stem from beliefs, from limiting beliefs, but they are not true. So if you have these kind of thoughts, learn to identify them, and most of all, don't believe they are true, because they're not. And it's the thoughts that are basically our limit, the only limit we have.
I love it. So it's funny that you bring up thoughts. We actually met in a emotional intelligence group, and I feel like this is a topic that I see people post about a lot, that we can't control our thoughts. And so I feel like that's a debate. Anytime someone says something along those lines, I feel like the thread is super long. So for someone who feels like, well, I can't control my thoughts, what would you say to that?
You don't have to control your thoughts. You can practice which thoughts you let pass and which you pay attention to. When I have mindfulness workshops, what I like to start the workshop with is, you cannot control which thoughts you create, but you can learn to control which thoughts you pay attention to and which you let pass. Because imagine the brain creates our thoughts the same as our legs move us from A to B. We cannot control the thoughts, but we can learn to control which we believe to be true and which we pay attention to. And I'm not saying that that's always easy. If it were very easy, we wouldn't have all this intrusive thinking and this loud inner critic, but it's possible. With meditation, with learning to observe, to not engage, to not attach immediately, but rather to detach, and then attaching to the thoughts that are true and empowering. And that's based, for me, that's the essence of mindfulness.
I love it. I love it. So, where can people find you online, or if they want more information about your mindfulness program?
Yes, I would love to. I have a Facebook group called Mindful and Heartful to Your True Self, and currently give mindfulness circles twice a week.
Oh,
Every Sunday,
cool.
12 p.m. Central Time. Every Wednesday, today's the next one, 6 p.m. Central Time. And It's a mindfulness circle. The first 30 minutes are a guided meditation. And after that, we have another 30 minutes where we can have a conversation where everyone can ask a question. And I give some further tips on mindful living. And it's a non-judgmental safe space for everyone to share what's going on, what they have on their heart.
I love it. So cool. And so I will have her links in the show notes, so you can definitely check her out. And if you like to find her on social media, the way you spell her name is Janina, last name Schick. So if you're listening on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you can definitely go check her out. Go to the show notes, find out about her mindfulness classes, because I think that mindfulness is so important. And it's the key for us to really build that self-awareness, to release the blocks so we can live the abundant lives that we truly desire. So thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome. And until next time, be decadent. Thank you for tuning in to the Abundance Hack Show. I would love to hear from you. Leave your comments and questions, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our yummy episodes. Every time you leave a 5-star rating or review, I do my happy dance.